Now let's look at buying a ferret from a pet shop. Now, even though we've gotten 4 of our ferrets from pet shops, after being around the ferret community and researching and educating myself on these animals and the 3 different options, I really believe that there are more cons than there are pros, and let's go through them now. So for the pros, here they are. One of the pros is that you're most likely to get a baby ferret from a pet shop. We got 1 baby actually. We got 3 babies from pet shop, and then 1 younger ferret as well. He was 3 months old when we got him. Bear. Oh, he was such a... I miss my ferrets that are across the Rainbow Bridge. So generally pet shops do tend to sell ferrets from 8 weeks old, and there is a little bit of controversy around selling ferrets at 8 weeks old. Some people think that it's too young. Some people think that it's an ideal age. Personally, I think it's still a little bit too young. I still think that ferrets need to be with their mothers for a bit longer. So you can possibly get a ferret from 8 weeks of age from a pet shop, and that is one of the pros if that is what you're looking for. Convenience is a massive pro as well, because not only can you get your ferret in a pet shop, you can buy the cage, you can buy the food, you can buy heaps of stuff from a pet shop. So it's all very convenient in one easy place. You don't really have to do anything else. You can pretty much get everything that you need from a pet shop. So convenience is another massive pro for pet shops. Another pro for pet shops is that in some countries, ferrets from pet shops come desexed, which can be beneficial and can save you money because obviously you don't have to do it yourself. The disadvantage, unfortunately, from this is that because ferrets are sold so young, and therefore they need to be desexed at a very young age as well. Studies have shown a link between ferrets that are desexed too young, under the age of 3 months, to the development of adrenal disease. So if you are purchasing a ferret from a pet shop where they have already been desexed and they are babies, then just keep in mind that later on in life they are more likely to develop adrenal disease. So just something to keep in mind. Now, those were the only things that I could think of, only 3 pros, and they were kind of a little bit for pet shops. The rest of it, unfortunately, is cons, and let me go through them for you. As we all know, pet shops are a business and they are in it to make money. Now, if they get ferrets and they don't sell, a ferret that reaches a certain age is either going to be abandoned at a shelter or destroyed. So keep in mind that you're contributing to that kind of an environment, that kind of a business model if you do purchase from a pet shop. And I've done that 4 times, so I can only really blame myself for it. I totally take responsibility for my actions, so hopefully educating more people on the benefits of adopting ferrets from shelters will help. There can be some good pet shops out there where if a ferret doesn't sell, then they will keep the ferret in the pet shop. However, generally that means that the ferret needs to stay in a glass aquarium container type thing until it's sold. So that can equal to a ferret being in one of those glass aquariums for months, which can lead to behavioral issues. And that's not ideal, especially if you're a new ferret owner. Another con is that unfortunately pet shop owners don't tend to be experts on ferrets unless they own ferrets themselves. Even then, you don't even know if they're experts or not. They could be doing everything wrong. I'm sure there are some great ones out there, so don't attack me for this. But generally, pet shop staff have so many animals to look after, there is no possible way that they can be experts on ferrets in general. And so they give not the best education when it comes to looking after the ferret. When I first bought a ferret from a pet shop, all I was given was a small handout that I read, and I thought that I knew everything there was to know. Little did I know that I knew absolutely nothing. One sheet cannot possibly educate you enough on what it means to be a responsible, educated ferret owner. So, you're probably not going to get the best information when it comes to looking after your ferret from pet shop staff. Other countries apart from the US, and I'm sure there are some other countries as well that do desex their ferrets, but in some countries, in the majority of countries, ferrets that are sold in pet shops will not come desexed, which means that you need to fork out that extra money in order to get them desexed. Obviously, you don't want to desex your ferrets too young because of reasons why I explained earlier, but that's just another con when it comes to purchasing from a pet shop where it's not a rule that they have to desex their ferrets. So, like in Australia, none of my ferrets from pet shops were desexed, which I'm happy because I'm happy to pay the money and wait for a bit longer till they mature. But if I adopted those ferrets from a shelter, then I would have saved myself some money. So there you go. Ferrets that are sold in pet shops are generally not vet checked or vaccinated either. So that means that you have to spend more money getting your ferret checked by a vet when you first get it, and going through the whole vaccinations and all that kind of stuff. So if you do adopt a ferret, then you're going to save money on that. And when it comes to pet shops, you do not have information on the lineage of the ferret, of the health history of the ferret either. You don't know where the ferret comes from. So it could be from a backyard breeder, which means that it could have been inbred, or it could be from one of those massive commercial breeders where there is absolutely... you don't even know. I don't even know what happens back there. I would love to know how it all goes down. When it comes to big commercial businesses, they are in it for the money. So it's generally going to be about the quantity of ferrets that they can produce rather than the quality. Now, even though pet shops have access to better quality food for ferrets, because they are for profit, it's all about the profit margins. So often a ferret will be fed crappy old food just to make sure that they can squeeze every dollar out of that ferret as possible. So you will, if you do purchase from a pet shop, you will need to transition a ferret onto a proper diet, a proper high quality diet. So that's just another con of purchasing from a pet shop. Pet shop ferrets would not be trained. They are not handled as much as they should be, so they can be nippier than ferrets that you can get from a shelter. So that's just another thing that you will need to keep in mind if you are looking to get a ferret from a pet shop. I'm sure that the staff in a pet shop do handle the ferrets occasionally, but the amount of handling that a baby ferret needs in order for it to grow up a well-socialized, well-behaved ferret is a lot more than what they can do in the hours that they work. So because they need to be preoccupied with looking after customers and stocking the pet shop and feeding the other animals and all of that kind of stuff, ferrets in a pet shop probably won't get handled as often as they need to be. So if you do purchase from a pet shop, then that will be your responsibility once you do get it, is to make sure you handle the ferret as much as possible so it grows up to be a great adult. One of the biggest cons when it comes to pet shops is that there is no extended return policy. So they may have a 3-day cooling off period. Most pet shops have a 3-day cooling off period or something like that. However, they don't have an extended return policy on ferrets. And I do not like saying return policy when it comes to ferrets, because they are not a product, they are living beings. But I'd prefer to see a return policy than no return policy, because generally ferrets that come from pet shops, if an owner has impulse bought a ferret and the ferret turns out to be not what they expected, then they can abandon it or put it on Craigslist or neglect the ferret because there is no return policy. So it's better to have a return policy, and you do get that when you adopt from a shelter. Now, what are the pros and cons of purchasing a ferret from a ferret breeder? Let's find out. Let us find out. Now, something that you need to be aware of, and I'm going to sound the alarm bells here. All ferret breeders are not made equal. You have two different ferret breeders, and one is very rare to find. The most common type of breeder is a backyard breeder. And when it comes to backyard breeders, often they are just in it for the money. They do not give a shit about a ferret's welfare. They inbreed and they breed sick ferrets or ferrets that have a poor health history, which creates a weaker lineage down the line, which means that it's going to cause you heartache and stress, and it's going to cost you a shitload of money to pay for all of the vet expenses as well. So just be aware that the majority of breeders out there are actually backyard breeders that do not care about a ferret's welfare whatsoever, and they are just in it for the money, or they think it's going to be fun just to breed ferrets and have baby ferrets. And the ferrets end up the victims. Inbreeding ferrets is a massive problem in the ferret world because it creates weaker, more disease-prone ferrets. And a lot of the diseases that we see in ferrets today can be linked to the fact that our ferrets somewhere down the line have not been bred properly, or have been slightly inbred, or have been bred with parents that are prone to diseases. A lot of the problems that we see today could have been fixed genetically if the breeders actually knew what they were doing. So this is something that you really need to be aware of. Obviously, there are other factors that contribute to diseases such as diet and exercise and all of that kind of stuff. But genetically speaking, there are certain things that we can definitely do to improve the lineage of ferrets and to improve the genetics of our ferrets. And purchasing from backyard breeders is not one of them, because the more we encourage them to breed, the more they breed ferrets, which causes even more problems along the line. So we need to make sure that we are smart, we think on our feet, we're educated, and we choose not to purchase from backyard breeders. Proper breeders, on the other hand, are very, very, very rare to find. I can think of only a few people that I can list on one hand, probably about 3 that I know of, that I would trust, maybe 4 or 5. And I've been working on Ferret-World for over 10 years now, with a community of over 30,000 people on Facebook, over 16,000 people on YouTube, thousands of people in the database, and I know a lot of people from all over the world, but I only know about 4 or 5 proper ferret breeders in the world. That is a problem. So it's really important for you to know that unfortunately, a lot of people that claim to be breeders out there are not, and they really do not know what they're doing. So please just be aware of that. Yeah, and because there are no regulations out there, there is no way to get rid of these dodgy breeders out there. So the only way that we can stop them is to stop purchasing the ferrets that they breed, and hopefully eventually they just give the ferrets to shelters and they stop operating entirely, because it's just not worth putting ferrets through what they put them through. Now, if you would like to find out more information about adopting a ferret, the pros and cons of it, buying a ferret from a pet shop, or buying a ferret from a breeder, then please look at this link below. There is a link, and check out the page on my website that I've written just for you, so that you can compare the 3 different options and educate yourself on the 3 different options so that you can make the best choice for you. Thank you for listening today. Hopefully this video has helped you. If it has, give it a thumbs up, please, and share it with all your ferrety friends so that they can be educated as well. And make sure that you subscribe to the Ferret-World newsletter too, because I'm giving away a ferret first aid and emergency care ebook, which I would like for you to get. And it is free, completely free, and it has saved thousands of ferrets' lives around the world already, and I would love for you to have it as well, just to look through, educate yourself about the different accidents that ferrets get into, diseases that they have, and what to do about them when they first get them. So hopefully it helps you as well. Make sure you subscribe to it, and I shall see you next week.